Good day, all. I'd like to thank you for your continued support. If you are new to this channel, please consider to subscribe and share this video with your friends and family and make a comment. Today I want to talk about prophecies that we are told were fulfilled by Jesus. But I'm going to pick just one because there are many. Some Christians tell us that there's about 300 prophecies that Jesus fulfilled. Today we are just going to tackle one of them. And I want to look at corresponding verses from the Old Testament. And I want to demonstrate some discrepancies that I found that to me indicate that these prophecies have got nothing to do with Jesus. This one in particular, it has nothing to do with Jesus, and it also has nothing to do with the coming Messiah. It is simply cut and paste. So the prophecy in question is found in Matthew 1:23. This is after the genealogy, after we are given the genealogy of Jesus. I think that if you go through one of my videos where I talk about the genealogy of Jesus, you'll get the reasoning. So after the genealogy of Jesus, Matthew 1, it starts from chapter 18 all the way to 24. In these verses, we are told that Joseph, the husband-to-be of Mary, was contemplating to leave her because he found out that Mary was pregnant. And he knew that he had nothing to do with the pregnancy. He had not had sexual relations with Mary. And so, because this was going to be, viewed as a disgrace. And so he was contemplating to leave. But whilst he was asleep, he was visited by the angel of the Lord, who told him that this pregnancy is a thing of the Lord. Mary was conceived because of the Holy Spirit. And the angel of the Lord was telling Joseph not to run away, but to stay with Mary. So in that vision, the angel of the Lord tells Joseph that Mary will conceive and have a child, and that he must call the child Joseph. So the name, he must call the child, he must call him Jesus. The child must be named Jesus. Now the name Jesus in Hebrew is Yehoshua. So the name Jesus actually was translated from Greek, which would have been or was Jesus. So and Jesus was translated from Hebrew, which is Yehoshua or Yeshua. But Yeshua, interestingly enough, when you translate Yeshua to English, it is supposed to be Joshua. And we have examples of this in the Bible. The first man who is known by the name of Joshua in the Bible is Joshua, Yeshua ben Nun, Joshua the son of Nun, who took over from Moses to lead the children of Israel to the promised land. So his name there was correctly translated as Joshua in English. But Jesus, from Jesus, I suppose, it became a direct translation. Jesus became Jesus. But properly it was supposed to be Joshua in English. Anyways, so the angel of the Lord tells Joseph that he should stick around, stick with his wife, so that a prophecy could be fulfilled. And that prophecy reads as follows: Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. Sorry. There are a few things here that I would want us to consider. What I have done, I took this chapter, Matthew 1:23, compared it with the chapter where this verse was quoted from. And I want to illustrate a few discrepancies that I found. So when you read it from Matthew 1:23, it reads as follows: Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. They shall call his name Emmanuel, which means that when this child is born, people will call this child Emmanuel, which means God is with us. So it's not going to be the parents of this child who will name this child Emmanuel. It will be people. That's what it implies here. They shall call his name Emmanuel. This verse, I repeat, is found in Matthew 1:23. But if you read the whole story, it starts from Matthew 18 to 24. Now, when you read the corresponding verse, which is found in Isaiah 7:14, it reads as follows: Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, there are two things that stand out in this corresponding verse. Firstly, there's a sentence which is omitted in Matthew 1:23, and that sentence is, Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. And then it carries on, Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, if you are reading from your Bible, if you open Matthew 1:23 and you open Isaiah 7:14, you will see the differences that I'm talking about. In Matthew 1:23, it says, and shall call his name Emmanuel. And in Isaiah, there are two things that are omitted or altered. Firstly, it's the first sentence that begins the verse. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. And then at the end of this verse, it says, and shall call his name Emmanuel. What is the difference there? The difference is that we are told in Matthew that people shall call this child that will be born Emmanuel. Whereas in this verse, there are two things that stands out. Firstly, is the first sentence, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. This is important, but if you read it out of context, you will not see the importance of this, but I will explain. And the last sentence, and shall call his name Emmanuel. What it means here is that the virgin that will bear a son, that will conceive and bear a son, she will name the child. She will call the child Emmanuel, not they, not people. She herself will name the child Emmanuel. Now, there's a context to this. This verse, when you read it in Isaiah, it has nothing to do with the coming Messiah. It has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with the fulfillment of prophecy about the Messiah, at least. But it has something to do with the fulfillment of a particular prophecy in the Old Testament. What is it talking about? If you read this chapter, if you read this verse, this chapter from verse 1 to verse 14, if you wish, you can carry on, 15, 16, 17, and so on. you will see the context. It's different. So it was very clever to just extract a verse and place it in the New Testament and make it look like it is talking about Jesus. If you are not careful and making comparisons, it is fitting. It is fitting. But once you make comparisons and understand the context, which is explained, I'm not explaining it out of my extra biblical knowledge. No, it's explained. It's written there from verse 1 up to there. You will see it has nothing to do with Jesus. This prophecy was fulfilled, for that matter, 700 years before Jesus was born. This is interesting. So it's cut and paste, no doubt about it. What is this prophecy about? This prophecy is about two kingdoms. Three kingdoms, actually. Two kingdoms have formed an alliance to topple a third kingdom. Now, two of these kingdoms, one is the kingdom of Israel, the other one is the kingdom of Assyria. The kingdom of Israel asked for an assistance from the kingdom of Assyria to topple the kingdom of Judah. Now, Judah and Israel, at some point, they were one kingdom, which at some point, after the death of King Solomon, these kingdoms separated, and they became the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. So the kingdom of Israel wanted to topple the kingdom of Judah. Now, both the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah had become corrupt. They had become corrupt. But God wanted to preserve the kingdom of Judah because from this kingdom, this is where the Messiah will come from. So it was not going to be interrupted. So the lineage was not going to be interrupted. God did not want the lineage to be interrupted. So even if the kingdom of Judah was corrupt, God did not want his plan to be interrupted. So he intervened. How did he intervene? He sent his prophet to King Ahaz of the kingdom of Judah and told him that these kingdoms that wants to topple you will not prevail against you. And this is the sign. At first, God said to his prophet, tell the King Ahaz, ask him to give me a sign that will assure him that his kingdom will not be toppled, will not be overthrown. But King Ahaz refused to give a sign, to ask for a sign from God, because he did not want to be seen as testing God. So God says, because you don't want to ask for a sign, then he says, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. You see, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Now in Matthew, if this sentence was included, it was not going to make sense if it started by saying, the Lord himself will give you a sign. We're going to ask, what is the sentence talking about? So they cleverly removed it and they started their quotation with, behold, the virgin shall be with child. They removed, therefore, because this is a conversation. The Lord himself will give you a sign, and what will be that sign? A virgin shall conceive and bear a son. That is the sign that God was giving this king. A virgin which is known between King Ahaz and Prophet Isaiah. The virgin will give birth to a son, and the son will be called, the virgin herself will name the child Emmanuel, which means it's a sign that God is with us. God is protecting this kingdom. If you read this, the verses that follows this verse, in 7:14. If you read 15, it continues to say, before this child could learn to eat curds and honey, these two kingdoms would have been destroyed. Right? It is omitted in Matthew because it makes no sense anymore if it continues. It makes no sense. So they cleverly just took what would make sense to people, what would make it look like it's a fulfillment of a prophecy, and they omitted all other relevant things. That shows that this prophecy has got nothing to do with Jesus or the Messiah for that matter. And as I indicated, this prophecy was fulfilled 700 years before Jesus was born. Cut and paste, and all the time we believe. But there's no such thing. There's no such thing. So you go ahead and read it, but read from verse 1 in Isaiah 7. Verse 1 and go all the way and finish. You will see the context is different. It's got nothing to do with Jesus. People wanted us to believe that Jesus is the Messiah when Jesus is not the Messiah. So, this is the first of the prophecies that we'll deal with. It is possible in another video we can tackle another one, but it is also possible we can talk about something else. If someone asks a question and say, hey, but can we talk about this? Then we will talk about that. This is where I will end for today. I encourage you to read further. Please subscribe. Please share. Please comment. Thank you very much for your attention, for the time that you have made to watch this video. I appreciate it. Thank you. Goodbye for now.